Hi, in this video I'll help you get to know your car a little better. At the end of this video I've put together a straightforward infographic that summarizes all the key points. Like, subscribe and comment below. It really helps.
Okay, so there it is, that dreaded check engine light. You plug in the scanner and it spits out this cryptic code, U0001. Now, this isn't your average sensor error. So in this explainer, we're going to decode this thing, this communication failure, to figure out what's really happening inside your car's network.
So you've got the code, right? But the real question is, what on earth does it actually mean for your car? Is this a huge deal or something you can fix in an afternoon? You know, this code is a little different from most, and really understanding it is the absolute first step to getting you back on the road safely.
All right, let's break this down. Unlike a code that points you to, say, a bad oxygen sensor or some specific mechanical part, U0001 is all about communication. It's basically your car's way of telling you that its different computers have stopped talking to each other the right way.
So here's the crucial point. U0001 means there has been a communication breakdown. The main controller in your car has spotted a problem on something called the CAN C-bus circuit. This isn't about one single broken part. It's a problem with the car's entire internal data network.
Now, to really wrap our heads around what's going on, we need to understand this CAN bus. And I know it sounds super technical, but think of it this way. It's basically your car's nervous system.
Yeah, it's kind of like the network of nerves that connects your brain to the rest of your body. In your car, it connects everything. The engine computer, the transmission, the anti-lock brakes, they all use this network to constantly send messages back and forth. So you can imagine, when that system goes down, well, chaos is not far behind.
And that leads us to the next big question, right? If this nervous system is failing, what's the actual cause? I mean, where does a mechanic even begin to look for the source of this kind of breakdown?
This is where we put on our detective hats. We've got to line up the main suspects. And luckily, for technicians, there's a pretty standard list of culprits they investigate whenever a U0001 code pops up.
Technicians are going to focus on four main areas. First, you've got simple circuit faults, things like a break or a short in the wiring somewhere. Second, other system codes could actually be the root cause, because stuff like low battery voltage can totally disrupt communication. Third, the problem could be the power circuits that lead to the main module. And finally, the module itself, the totally integrated power module, or TIP, could just be faulty.
Okay, so we've got our list of suspects. How does a professional actually track down the problem? Well, they don't just guess. They follow a very specific, very logical checklist to isolate the issue. The whole diagnostic process is really methodical. A technician is going to start with the wiring, physically inspecting those CAN C-bus circuits for any obvious damage. Next, they'll scan for any other trouble codes that could give them some clues. From there, they'll test the power circuits going to that main module. And then, if all else fails, they're going to examine the heart of the system, the TIPDM. And let's just focus on that last part for a second. The totally integrated power module, or TIPM, comes up again and again in this investigation. It's basically the central hub for the vehicle's entire electrical system. And because it's so central to everything, it's often a key player when this kind of communication breaks down. Now, you might be watching this thinking, okay, I've got the checklist. Maybe I can tackle this myself. But for this particular code, that's almost always a bad idea. Let's talk about why this is a job that's really best left to a professional.
Here's the bottom line. Diagnosing a U0001 code requires some pretty advanced scan tools, ones that can read network data, not just the basic code readers a lot of us have at home. You're dealing with really complex, bundled wiring harnesses where one wrong move could create a much bigger, much more expensive problem. Getting the diagnosis right the first time is absolutely critical to avoid just throwing parts at it. And hey, don't just take my word for it. The source material is crystal clear on this point. It says directly that to accurately diagnose and fix the issue, you need a professional technician and a complete diagnostic procedure. This is one of those times where trying to save a few bucks can end up costing you a whole lot more in the long run. So, we've gone from a totally confusing code to a much clearer understanding of the problem. You know that U0001 is a critical network failure, you know the potential causes, and you get why it really needs a professional touch. Now, armed with all this knowledge, the only question left is, what's your next move?